Basement level vibes with another one, straight up blackness. Aye, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, we have to gather wrong, grab a seat and sit down, pay attention. Education, liberation, we have to stand strong. Benskop upon the radio, lively up the program. Everybody call somebody and let them turn and tune and on the radio and catch the boom song. We boom it up already, we have to boom it up again. Expose and reveal him, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop.
This is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Mr. Watts, he is armed himself. Shots. Watch it. Tear gas. Light rounds. Also, I can see that.
Justice for Quindon! I can't put in the box, so I have to do that. But since my cousin there, no, you come on the East Coast.
You listen to me.
Right? No, you come on the East Coast.
You listen to me.
You gotta listen to me too, man.
I am listening to
Right? Now, I see you on the East Coast. The day when they get a protest of them, the next day, that's when you see one bigger heads come up to talk to my family. Right? And that's bad. If we didn't do a protest, then we want to see nobody for justice. You see? I'm not holding back nothing. I'm not holding back nothing. I just need justice for my family. I get visitors all of a sudden. All of a sudden, you all have visitors. This is Joker. Who is that Joker? That piece of plum. They know who they deliver to.
Good evening. My name is Mark Penshop. It's 6 minutes after 9 o'clock in beautiful Guyana. Well, it's still a beautiful country despite the corruption, despite the discrimination, despite the racism, all of these things happening in hot Guyana. And I say hot Guyana because it looks as though things are heading back in that direction, if you know what I mean. And these PPP folks, whenever they're looking for sympathy, whenever they're looking for some sort of outside attention from all the shenanigans, that's happening within their party, they have big, huge in-house fighting right now. Maybe that explains why Tanti Morrell is currently out of the country. Tanti Morrell has been out of the country. Tanti Morrell has been quiet in every aspect. And so we haven't been hearing much from Tanti Morrell going around the place trying to get some sort of business deal and whatever. And mind you, these guys and their business deals, I repeat, these guys, Tanti Morrell and them, and their business deals have nothing to do with the development of Guyana. Absolutely nothing to do with the development of Guyana. It's all about them, and that's it. So do not be fooled. It's all about them. Good evening and welcome to Straight Up. My name is Mark Penshop. Do call your friends and forget about what else is on. Call your friends and have them tune in. This is our time. This is Straight Up time, where we give you the news. We give you the other side of the coin, the real news. That is what we give here. We don't get into any Tanti Morrell business, so to speak. We get straight down into business. So good evening and welcome to Straight Up. Look what's happening again. Fire. Muhammad and Sons. Not Muhammad and Son, not that sort of Muhammad that you guys are familiar with. This is a different Muhammad. And now this is at a warehouse. We don't know what has happened, but the fire there, the bond is just burnt. It took the fire service guys them about 2 hours. Just imagine, about 2 hours to contain this blaze. I don't know whether it's suspicious. I don't know. I don't want to give my mouth any sort of liberty at all. I'm not going to go there. But whatever it is, let's hope that the fire service guys and the police get to the bottom of it. I don't know. I'm not going to say what it is. I don't know what it is. It's just the fires. And then earlier today, guess what happened? Look what's happening again. Either it's a fire, a bomb scare, or it's just some sort of fire precaution, a fire drill. I don't know. We don't know. But this is what is happening in beautiful Guyana. This happened earlier this afternoon in front of the audit office of Guyana. And this is big. It's huge. Why is it? Why is it so important that I share this information with you? it is important because just recently we've been hearing about the audit of ExxonMobil and the billions of dollars, and that money has to, we, the taxpayers, we have to fund all the expenses, whether it's living expenses, whether it's travel expenses, whether it's entertainment expenses, you name it. Taxpayers, the taxpayers have to fund it. And so there was a recent audit, and whether it's through the audit office of Guyana, I don't know, but this is suspicious. This is suspicious that suddenly the fire engine, the fire trucks are there, and employees had to step out of the building. Again, I don't know whether it's a bomb scare. I don't know. I haven't seen anything in the news about that. We are the only ones who actually carried the photograph. Thank you so much for Lemon. As you know, Lemon has his connections. Lemon does have his connections. So he's coming in to some useful purpose here at 107.1 FM. But you guys got to be extra careful with the fires now. Now let's get back to the fire guy. This is at Ivleri. This is where the Office of Professional Responsibility burnt to the ground on the, suspicious circumstances. And we all know the suspicious fires. To this day, Robeson Ben, who happens to be sitting there in the seat of the Minister of Home Affairs, he's an installed minister. And the bumps raised when you describe them as installed. They just don't like to be described as installed. But it is what it is because they are indeed installed. It is an installed regime. Some people get giddy whenever they hear the word installed because that is exactly what the PPP is. Installed PPP regime. So be careful, guys, with the fires. Be careful. I know what I'm saying because to understand the PPP is understand how they rule, is to understand how they govern, and they just don't give a damn. Watch out. Watch out for the fires. It's just like, it's like I have a crystal ball in my hands, and I'm saying to you guys, be careful. Because the PPP is so dangerous that they're going to do any and everything to distract individuals. Right now, they are desperate. The PPP is so desperate that they will do anything. And so we've got to, you can't say I haven't warned you guys about this because this is what they are about. It is just the PPP. So be careful, guys. They are going to try to divert attention from the serious problems that they're having. One, within the PPP, serious in-house fighting. They're fighting amongst themselves. I don't know how we haven't heard any gunshots as yet, but they're fighting amongst themselves. Again, good evening to all of you guys. Don't fight up on 107.1 FM. Don't fight up. You guys will get to see me this evening. Let's just deal with serious matters right here on 107.1 FM. Thank you all so much for sharing the link. I was going to say thank you all so much for sharing the links because that's what we give here, political links against the PPP. We wake them up, and that's what we're about. Again, I hope you guys have had a great weekend. Let's get down to business here now. What else we can talk about? This guy, you guys know who he is, right? Let me see how many of you could identify this individual. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that if I scared you or anything of that sort, I must apologize. Please do accept my apologies. This happens to be the disgrace, as Stabrook News put it, and I agree with Stabrook News, mind you, the disgrace, I repeat, the disgrace former High Commissioner, Guyana's High Commissioner. Well, not Guyana, because he wasn't representing Guyana. He was representing the PPP, not Guyana, mind you. Charan Das, and we spell it slowly. We stop at D and we put a slash ASS. Charandas, right? Charandas, the disgraced former PPP High Commissioner to India. Speaking of PPP High Commissioners to India, or High Commissioners to India, why do they, the PPP that is, believe that the person has to be of Indian origin, and that the person who ought to be nominated as High Commissioner to India ought to be a person of East Indian descent? What utter nonsense is that? I've noticed some lagu bagus basically trying to push their individuals. They're talking about a Vishnu Bisram and all these kind of guys. Who says that Vishnu Bisram has what it takes to? Come on, give me a break. Why can't somebody like me, and if you know what I mean, right? Why can't somebody like me be High Commissioner to India? Why can't somebody like you or anyone, whether it's of indigenous descent, whether African descent, whether it is Chinese, you name it. Why do these guys believe that it is only in the best interest of Guyana that you put someone of East Indian descent to be the High Commissioner to India? To me, that is foolishness. Why don't we put a white guy? Why don't we put a white guy as Guyana ambassador to the US? Why can't we put a white guy or a white girl, a lady, sorry, as a High Commissioner to Canada? If that is the case, you know what I mean? I mean, we could put an African Guyanese, we could put an indigenous Guyanese. But these guys in the PPP are so goddamn foolish that they feel that only East Indian can be nominated or can be appointed as High Commissioner to India. Well, to the coalition's credit, they sent a guy who was a non-Indian, which was good. I don't know, these high commissioners and ambassadors and so forth, God in heaven knows what most of them do. Take, for example, Guyana's ambassador to the US. Do you guys know who he is? Do you guys know who that person is? And if so, what has that person done to represent Guyana's interests? You guys tell me this. What has that person done? Yes, it's Sam Hines, right? Sam Hines. What has that person done to represent Guyana's interest in the United States of America, other than Sam Hines? Who is the High Commissioner, Guyana High Commissioner to India? To forget about that disgrace. Who is the Guyana High Commissioner to Canada? Who is Guyana High Commissioner to England? They don't have, right? Over 2 years now since these vagabonds have been installed, and nothing of the sort. They removed one guy as the ambassador to Suriname and replaced him with some Dalgu. God in heaven knows who, but I don't know what's happening with these folks. England has no representation other than someone who has been acting there for a couple of years. Canada, I'm not sure, has any either. They have no one. And they gone and they put Sam Blinds as ambassador, Guyana's ambassador to the United States of America. These people are not serious about development. They're just not. They're not serious about anything. And so when I hear some of these crosses talking about a Vishnu Bisram and this other Suraj Dare and Prasad and this, whatever happened to a Lewis? Whatever happened to a Crawford or a Caesar? Not that controversial senior cop at Ivlery. But what about these guys? Come on. Been racist PPP regime, man. Racist vagabonds. Good evening again. Good evening to all of you. Thank you, Margaret. Margaret, you spell It doesn't sound nice when you spell crosses with an O. These crosses. Somebody say Neil Marks. I noticed Neil Marks has the audacity to address coalition supporters as dunstogs. Who is that guy? That guy could hardly read the news. He could hardly read the news. And then meantime, my name is Neil Marks. And he has the audacity to address people as dunstogs. Dunstogs are right there at Freedom House. They're at office of the president. That is where Dunstog is. And when he wants to talk about Dunstogs, we can show them Dunstogs. Because we know who the Dunstogs are. We can show them Dunstogs. Yes, we can show them the Dunstogs. These folks have the audacity to address people and call coalition supporters Dunstogs. And Neil Marks, give me a break, man. Talk about Dunstogs. Look at the Dunstogs, them right here. These are the Dunstogs. These are the notorious Dunstogs in Guyana. But Dunstogs. Just probably started to read and write. But Dunstogs. What else we can talk about? We got to get on to J.R. Crawford. We want to hear what's happening with J.R. Crawford. But before we get to him, what's going on with this here? Thank you so much, Lemon. What's going on with this? This is accurate, according to information. November 2009. Now, here is what I want to discuss. November 2009. This guy, girl, whoever, it looks like a guy. But this guy's name is Amanda Viri. Now, when last have you guys, I've never heard this name Viri. I know Vera, I know all, but Viri? Viri? Amanda Viri? Bob? Is this a girl? Is this a guy? Is this who is this? But this is a national identification card. Guyana identification card issued in the name of surname Bob, first name Amanda, and second name or middle name, as they call it, Viri, or Viri, something like Viri. What do you guys think of this? This person doesn't exist. And I'm asking, I hope that Claudette Singh can address this particular issue. There are thousands of persons like this thing. Bob, Amanda, Viri, or Viri, Pepper. I don't know. Thousands of persons, I'm assuming, because there is no, absolutely none, unless the PPP would come and say that I am spreading propaganda, right? Let them come and say that Ben Shap is spreading propaganda. Whether this person exists or not. And there are thousands of other individuals like this thing. Whether it's a guy, look, if this is a woman and this is real, if this is a woman and this is real and this person exists, then let me apologize to this person if they exist. I am not sure that this person exists. Look, the date of birth. The date of birth is the 2nd of June, 1951. The 2nd of June, 1951. Guyanese nationality. And this ID card was issued on the 1st of November, 2009. Thank you, Roberto Gonzalez. I like seeing Roberto when Roberto is on. I like seeing all of you guys whenever you're on, right? But let's move on. There's something else. Something else that I want to bring to your attention, mind you. Something else. Look, that ID card, and let's try to get to the bottom of this situation. Look at that ID card. It says the 1st of November. 1st of November, 2009. But this is what this says here. I want you guys to understand before I move on to some other stuff. Crawford. J.R. Crawford, we want to get him. So, Lemon, if you can make contact with J.R. Crawford, please tell him we want to talk to him. We got some questions for J.R. Crawford. But look at the date that this was issued, the 1st of November, 2009. And look at what this article in the Stabrook News staff editor says. The Guyana Elections Commission today, back in November 7, 2011, it says here, the Guyana Elections Commission today said that all national identification cards issued before October 2009, red and green ID cards, have been decommissioned with effect from October 31st, 2011. Something. I don't know what it is that I'm on to, but something isn't right. Because my understanding is that all of 2009, because remember they had house-to-house registration in 2008. And that house-to-house registration started in January, I believe sometime the 7th or the 6th of January, all the way to July. So it took them a little over 6 months for house-to-house registration. And then there was no identification card issued in 2009. It started in 2010 in preparation for the 2011 elections. But something is fishy about this. Do you know who this guy is? Let me see if you guys understand. Do you know who this guy is? Aliyah Waldron, you're also onto something. Fraud is fraud. Simple as that. Fraud is fraud. We all know that. Fraud is fraud. Yvette Graham is saying Bam Bam. For a moment, I thought you were talking about Bam Bam Ali. But that's okay. Renair Caesar, good evening to you, sir. Good evening to all of you guys. King Rigger. But we're not talking about King Rigger. We're talking about this guy here now. This guy we're talking about, doctor. Doctor, he's an animal doctor. He's a vet. His name is Suraj Bali. Suraj Bali. Dr. Suraj Bali. And I noticed that someone said King Rigger. They probably are talking about Jack Dale or Irfan Ali. This is, I'm about to make a point about Steve Suraj Bali. Steve Suraj Bali. And let's try to make sense of what's happening. We spoke about the fact that all 2009, for the most part, no ID cards. Look, it says here from GCOM itself, all those ID cards decommissioned with effect from October 31st. October 31st. October 31st, 2011. Let's go back to Let's go back to this individual here, and you see what's happening there now. But there's some other things that I want to show you as we get into this thing here. Look, house-to-house registration, GCOM captures less people than anticipated. In 2011, house-to-house registration ended July of 2008, It says here, and this is the news, the Guyana Elections Commission, GCOM, has registered a total of 430,000 persons during the house-to-house registration, which came to an end on July 4th, meaning that's 2008. GCOM was hoping to register some 535,000, but this was not the case. Now, hear what GCOM chairman says, that Steve Suraj Bali said that the commission took the official list of electors, OLE, from the 2006 elections and added 20% to it, which gave them the 535,000 figure. So they took electors from that 2006 elections list and they added, they plucked out 20% and they added that 20% to the list. Now, this gets interesting. It says, but according to Dr. Suraj Bali, only 69% of the voters turned up to vote at the 2006 polls. He said that this should have signaled that the OLE was greatly inflated, that the people were just not there. Can we go over that again? But according to Dr. Surajbali, only 69% of the voters turn up to vote. At the 2006 polls, he said that this should have signaled that the OLE was greatly inflated, that the people were just not there. You get the drift? They knew all along that the list was inflated. They took 20% of or from the OLE and added that to the 2011 elections. Or during the course of 2008 registration, house that lasted for a little over 6 months. And then in 2009, they were claiming that all the registration, all the identification cards have been decommissioned. And so the monies that they spent for house-to-house registration from 2008 and then to decommission the thousands of cards, according to them, you know what it cost Guyanese taxpayers? Over $1 billion for that process. $1 billion. Again, we're talking about Guyana Elections Commission. And we know about this guy. I've shown you him. His name is Steve Surajbali. Now, this guy here, let me see if you guys are up to your game. Who is this guy? We're breaking things down at the Guyana Elections Commission. And this is why I believe the corruption starts right there at the Guyana Elections Commission with the list. It is bloated. It is heavily bloated with thousands upon thousands of persons who should not be there. Individuals are dead. Their names are still there. And you're telling me in a democracy that there is no legal process to get rid of those names that are on the list? Individuals have been out of Guyana for 15, 10, 15, 20 years, and their names are still on the list. Do you know if you register to vote, let's say in a particular area in New York, and you haven't voted, they will write to you, and you know what? If you do not explain that you have moved or whatever, let me see if you guys understand what's happening. They will remove you from the list. They wouldn't ask you to show evidence that you are alive. Well, if you're dead, obviously they have a way of knowing that, right? But if you haven't voted in 1 or 2 elections, they will take you off the list. Not in Guyana. Not in Guyana. And yet they're saying that there's no legal process to do that. In other words, thousands of persons whose names are on the list and who have not returned to Guyana in over 160-something years, who are living in Queens, Brooklyn, wherever they are, Utah. Good evening to the folks in Utah and Arizona and all those other places, right? They are not back in Guyana, but if it is so unfair, remove them from off the list, all of them. Whether they're PPP supporters, whether they are PNC supporters, whether they're 1 or 2 supporters of the AFC, remove them from the list. You cannot have thousands of people who are basically there taking up space at GCOM. It is a recipe for corruption because the PPP has a way of using those same names. The PPP are masters at rigging, you know. Not the PNC. The PNC banners, them can't rig. And I'm dead serious about that. The PNC guys, them can't rig no elections. Don't let nobody fool you guys. Don't let nobody fool you guys about Bornham rig elections and them nonsense. The PNC guys, them can't rig. They don't have the head to rig. They don't have the guts to rig. They're not brave enough to rig. When the PPP rig, they rig. They put an F in front. They do all sorts of things. They are masters at rigging elections. And there's history behind that. There's evidence to substantiate these points. In the 60s, they rigged. Find out what happened with the by-elections with McDougall. Find out what happened with other elections. Find out what happened in the 1970 elections. Find out how bloated the list was in 2001 when they claimed that they won the elections. Find out what happened in 2006 when they stole a seat from the AFC. Find out what happened in 2011. Find out what almost happened in 2015. Now let's go back to 2006. They knew that they stole a seat from the AFC, but yet they're claiming that the AFC was wrong and the AFC got 3,158 of the votes, and they, PPP, got 3,230 something or something of that sort. And they're claiming that there was a glitch. And so there was an old list that the AFC thought that they had 100 and something points or votes ahead. All sort of jiggery-pokery. Just because they stole the seat, they rigged the elections in 2006. Now let's go to 2011. Ramotar became the minority president as a result of the PPP getting caught with its pants down when they were about to steal a seat. They were about to steal a seat. They got caught. It was brought to this guy's attention. This guy was the chief elections officer, Gokul Budu, and it was brought immediately to his attention and said, look, no. According to the tabulation, the PPP won the 2011 elections, but with a minority government. And that is why they could not have governed the way they wanted to. They were basically hijacked in parliament. They had no majority. And this guy, Ramotar, prorogued parliament, and elections were called in 2015. Understand what's going on, guys. The voters list is padded. It's heavily padded in favor of the PPP. You have lots of Venezuelans on the list. You have lots of Brazilians. And we are going to hear that there are lots of Bangladeshi, a lot of Indian nationals on the list as well. And what they don't want to tell you is a lot of refugees are in Guyana. Over 4,000 refugees that the PPP is getting money funded by the US for. They're not going to want to talk to you about that. Lots of refugees. Maybe one of the reporters should go over and ask the guys them at CIOG. J.R. Crawford is with us. Thank you so much, Lemon, for finding Mr. Crawford with us this evening. I almost didn't see the message from Lemon. But if J.R. can give us another quick minute and we get back to here now. You see, it is then Steve Surge-Valley, the chief elections officer, who's telling you guys that the list was bloated since 2006. Since 2006, they couldn't find hundreds of thousands of people who are registered. They're there on the list, but cannot be removed. But Anil and these guys love it, right? They love it. They love it. I want to bring J.R. Crawford on. But I want to take a quick minute to show you guys this here. This is a letter of Kwame McCoy abusing out people that they are writing to the U.S. officials. And Kwame says, the orchestrated racism boogeyman tactics being waged at home and abroad by Saul and etc., to fracture the Guyanese society will not work. Its intellectual authors will continue to be isolated and fiercely rebuffed. Kwame McCoy, of all person, Kwame McCoy, a convict. McCoy on assault charges released on self-bail. Assault charges released on self-bail. Those of you who remember this story and how Kwame and his girls them broke up my vehicle, and chased me. I'm not going to deny I ran because I don't want to be scratched up. I don't want to get rabies, and I didn't want Kwame and his girls them to scratch me up, so I ran. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But of all person, Kwame McCoy? They put Kwame McCoy out there to talk and claiming that he's representing persons of African descent and talking about decency. Well, I want those people in Washington, D.C. and other places to know who Kwame McCoy really is. Kwame McCoy charged in 2011 bench up assault case. As you know, he lost that case, one of them. He was convicted. Convicted. So he's a convict. Let's move on. U.S. revokes Kwame McCoy's visa. This was 2009. He probably got it back now because he's moving around in a diplomatic visa. Now, some of you may ask, why did the U.S. revoke his visa? It was over a tape conversation, of which he denied. Of course, he would deny, with an underage boy where he was soliciting sex. I love you, Kwame. Well, the guy's name was Julius. Julius, I love you, Julius. Julius, you can't do this to me. And so because of that tape, the U.S. revoked Kwame McCoy's visa. But this is the same Kwame McCoy these PPP vagabonds put out there to represent Black people, persons of African descent. Who in Washington will listen to this guy? Let's move on. Let's see what else is happening. Look, court fines Kwame McCoy $20,000 for assaulting Mark Benchop. Oh, he assaulted Mark Benchop, right? Other charges dismissed. All right, other charges dismissed. But let's go down the line again. What else? Court fines Kwame McCoy $20,000 for assaulting Mark Benchop. Oh, poor me. He assaulted me. Look at what he did to my vehicle. Him and his girls did that, right? Okay, let's move on. What else? Woman allegedly knocked down by Kwame McCoy no longer wants to testify. She was afraid to testify. This was 2012. Afraid to testify. The same Kwame McCoy who wants to come out of there as though he has some sort of moral values and all these sort of things, and he believes in decency and democracy, and he wants the people in Washington and other places to know that these African organizations, hear what he's saying, hear what he's saying. Its intellectual authors will continue to be isolated and fiercely rebuffed by every truly patriotic citizen of our country, even among their political strongholds, and their plans and schemes will eventually fall into the long arms of the law. What long arms of the law? Huh? Look at this guy. Woman allegedly knocked down by McCoy no longer wants to testify. Look at this guy. PPP members Kwame McCoy and Jason Abdullah, along with former bodyguard Sean Hines, appeared before a city court today where they were read a charge of assaulting activist Freddie Kisu. Look them in handcuffs. Look them in handcuffs. And want to talk about decency and morality and all these nonsense? What's wrong with these people, man? What's wrong with these guys? Mr. Crawford, Mr. Caesar, the hypocrisy. Who would listen to these thugs? Who would listen to these political thugs? Let's give Caesar what is due unto Caesar. The first bite at this. Good evening, gentlemen. Caesar, take the first bite.
Well, Mark, based on what, good evening, everyone. Good evening, listeners, viewers. Good evening, Mark. Mark, based on what you just said, it just shows, the quality of the PPP, the way they select and vet their lawmakers, to have someone like Kwame McCoy.
Hold on a second. Shiv Singh is in the house. Shiv, good evening, my brother. Shiv wants to know, because Shiv is asking Mark, do you think Mingo will be jailed? Well, if Irfan Ali with 19 fraud charges and can't tell us what university he went to get his undergrad and his grad degree, he's in jail. If the same Irfan Ali who was blocked from entering Canada for obvious reasons that I don't want to tell you guys right now, but maybe Irfan should tell you guys, if he is not in jail, if Jagdev is not in jail for Sue and other matters, if the other PPP vagabonds are not in jail, you ask him, Shiv, don't do that, man. It's your first night as senior. Don't do that. Wants to know if Mingo will go to jail. Well, look, Shiv, if you want to know if Mingo will go to jail, ask your friends in the PPP to stop blocking the elections petitions from being heard. We want to hear the elections petition. We want to see what are some of the things in those SOPs. But you know who's blocking it, right? Not Mingo is blocking it. Not Crawford is blocking it. Not Caesar is blocking it. It's your PPP comrades who are blocking it, Shiv. So Shiv that, you know where. But thank you so much for coming. Go ahead, Mr. Caesar. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Chief is a good example of being intellectually lazy right there. I don't know what he's looking at. I don't know what he's interpreting. But yes, but Mark, continuing on the PPP, the quality of their lawmakers are very poor. They have no character. These are guys. Look at Kwame McCoy, for example, should be nowhere near Parliament. He has no right being in Parliament. No way close. No way in the vicinity. Irfan Ali, we all know about Irfan Ali, right? We all know about his portfolio, his educational portfolio not being accurate. I don't know. I never heard of IFLAT University yet. I'm still trying to, figure out where this IFLAT University is. And then the 18-19 fraud charges just dropped by, of course, the DPP. You might as well just call her the PPP and be finished with it. And Jack Dio, we all saw Jack Dio in the Vice video. We all saw him in that corner sitting, giving the orders, telling them what he would do and what he would not do for them, making commitments. So, to talk about Claimant Mingo, I mean, that's a stretch right there, Mark. We have bigger fish to fry in Jack Dio, Ali, McCoy, and the rest of them.
McCoy is not really a bigger fish, but I'm glad you've used that term.
But Mark,
big fish, but he's a small fish.
But
let's get point before we get on to Mr.
But let's get it right, Mark. He is a fish. Okay.
No, we're not here to. We're on the radio here. We've got to be cautious. We're not here. 1 second. We're not
Mark,
here.
We're talking in the concept of big.
No. We're not here to decide on who's a fish or who's not a fish. We're not here for that. We may already know what is the deal, but let us be cautious, though. Let us go over to Mr. Big Fish Crawford. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, everyone. How you doing?
Good evening, sir.
Wayne seems to be hot around the corner tonight. Anyway, back to the question. The PPP has shown over the years that they can get away with certain stuff, and the PNC is partly to be blamed for PPP's continuous rigging because they are not continuous in the fight to stop certain behavior patterns. They are not forceful in getting certain things out to where the list would be, at least 90% clean. We have been knowing for years that the Venezuelan and Brazilian were obtaining IDs from Guyanese IDs. This in turn, they may not physically come to the booth to vote, but those numbers are recorded and they are voted by proxy means. Some people, when you tell them what will take place, they don't want to listen. And it's a sad situation because when you have massive rigging, you're interfering with the democracy, and this is something that hurts generation, and it takes a long time for you to correct. That right there on the screen, that I'm sure that person doesn't know anything about voting, but that number on the ID card will be used. And these are the things we have to guard against. Allegedly, there is over 60,000 new ID cards from foreign nationals that have been given out. So we're seeing more padded going on the list. And how you stop it, you have to have a vigilant opposition to fight all these issues and to scrutinize and get these things done. But we are not seeing that vital push. Again, democracy is going to be hurt. And you mentioned...
Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned the house registration. I've said it 3 years ago on other platforms, and I've said it here on this platform. House registration is a total waste of time. It's a way to fleece the country's the monies. If someone wants to be a part of the voting process, they are going to go and get themselves registered at a particular office. I can't say I want to be a voter and I wouldn't find myself going to get registered. This nonsense about going from house to house and calling on people and all this, no. If I want to be at the polling places at election, I will go and get myself registered. There will be specific time. It will be advertised in the newspaper, in the news. I go there. But to find people walking and that is where you have all the corruption. They're doing the double registration right there.
Lots and lots of corruption indeed. I'm looking at some of the comments. You could tell that some of these guys can't read and write. You could tell that they're fake pages and these sort of things. They know that the PPP are past masters. The PPP are masters at rigging. And every time we talk about it, they get upset. Their bumps raised and all manner of things. Let me ask you this, Mr. Caesar, concerning the bridge. We heard of the corruption at the bridge. The fact that a tanker was allowed to pass through the Demerara Harbor Bridge. What is your take on that? You're an accountant and so forth. A country like Guyana, a boat, an oil tanker that was supposed to pay over 200 million Guyana dollars, register that money to the court. The court has ordered. There's no evidence that that money was paid. A damage of over $1 billion to that bridge. Guyanese taxpayers now have to be funding for that. The oil tanker was allowed 2 Saturdays ago to pass through the Demerara Harbor Bridge. 3 persons were sent on leave, 1 Dripal, 1 Watson, and another individual. Watson is the manager. Dripal, I think she is the traffic controller. She was on duty that weekend. According to statements handed in, nothing of that sort was given in the report. Obviously, they're looking for scapegoats, and they're looking to probably blame Watson, when in fact it was Dripal, who is connected to the PPP, I'm told, was the individual who was there and when that ship allegedly passed while she was there. Lots and lots of controversy, but your take on that ship being allowed to pass through?
Well, Mark, I certainly believe that those names that you mentioned, individuals, everything is occurring way above them. Okay. Are they responsible? Yes, but everything is happening above them. This is just, for to show you that with the PPP government, there is no accountability. There is no accountability whatsoever. And, when you look at something like this, it's concerning because this looks like if it runs very long. When I say long, even through the court system, it seems as if everybody is working on one accord. And the Guyanese people is who are suffering here because it's their taxpayer dollars that are being wasted. Right? This whole thing, Mark, this whole thing with the Demerara Bridge is very, very fishy. Very fishy. So I would be very, very concerned about that. And, when you look at the state of affairs right now in Guyana, people are suffering, the cost of living continues to go up, and then with the inflation and everything else, and the government is not providing any relief for these people. But yet we're having things like COI. We have a damaged bridge that costs to the tune of 1-point-something billion. I don't know, Mark. I don't know, as an accountant, if I could look, to see, the damages that was done on that bridge. If it's 1-point-something billion, it's hard to believe these things, and the PPP have their hands on the oil revenue, and you want to know where all this money is going. I would really, really like to see the books of the government.
Well, we know where the money is going, Mr. Caesar. We know it's going into their mansions. The other day, we are told that Edgel built another big house. We don't know. All we're hearing is that things were being delivered with ministry vehicle, ministry trucks, and all these different things. I don't know what's happening, but Mr. Crawford, you want to take a bite at what happened with that big ship that didn't lodge the $200 and something million as requested by the court. I don't know what's happening, man. Talk to us, please, sir.
I have a different view from Mr. Caesar. If the reports were correct, that the Minister of Infrastructure stated that the damages to the bridge was about $1 billion. Now, the courts, for some strange reason, only ordered 247 million. And the ship wasn't ordered to be held until monies were received. Something is not right. What happened to the next 753 million? Who is going to pay for that? Is it that the numbers were inflated, or the court screwed up in its judgment against the owners of the ship? Two, it's a recurring pattern that we are seeing these collisions on Friday nights and early Saturday mornings. And the bridge, for some reason, is always being completed just in time for rush hour traffic for the next working week. This is not a normal behavior. Too much of a coincidence on a weekend incident.
Too much. You know the other thing, Mr. Crawford, and you are correct. That person who was on duty at Dripal, I hope it's nobody from our side, Philippi, Cromarty, Kilmarnock, on this side, the Dripals. I'm related to some of the Dripals out there on the quarantine. But that aside, I don't think that somebody like the traffic controller would be so brave enough to allow such a big controversial ship, oil tanker, to just pass through just like that. That person would have gotten orders from a high authority in the PPP. Money talks. Money talks. That is what it's about.
Correct.
Gentlemen, I want you guys to take a look at this video, and we'll come back and analyze Tanti tomorrow, the second.
Yeah, because I have it. I want you to see unity and love. Yeah, but that's the one from the start.
That is what
That's the one from the start.
Sir, we are pushing that from the top of this government. Listen carefully. This is not game. This is not a game show. Those who pretend to be leaders of
But then you have to practice what you preach.
listen, that's why we're here. That's why we're here. We have a song. 5 years ago, you're going to get there? No.
Get the chance.
Oh, did they get a chance? But I get a chance, so I'm going to do it. I get a chance, and I'm going to do it. You see this wickedness where they use the television to spread the narrative of hate? We're going to destroy it in the communities. We're going to come and talk to the people directly. That is how we're going to destroy it. Because there's only one way we are building a Guyana. We are building a Guyana that is united, a Guyana that is filled with love, and a Guyana in which prosperity comes to everyone. That is the Guyana we build.
The lady's correct. It starts from the top. Wickedness in high places. And she was confronting wickedness in high places. Look at those two individuals. Wickedness in high places. They have serious problems in their offices at OP, at Freedom House. That is why they're walking the streets to spread their propaganda. But it is our duty to ensure that their propaganda are not going to be spread around the country. I salute this woman who told these guys who are practicing wickedness and division of a country that charity begins at home. Mr. Caesar, take the first bite of this, please.
Yeah, so Mark, the first thing when I analyzed this video, I really agree with you. This woman was very, very professional in her approach. The installed president, and I hope he's watching this program, he's very arrogant. Okay. First of all, he could not answer the lady's question correctly. You know, got very angry, very agitated. You know, he has his whole One Guyana slogan. But we know about our national motto: one people, one nation, one destiny. Under the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, we don't know anything about One Guyana. So he can take that and do whatever he has to do with it. But the lady did have a very good point right there. Everything starts at the top. When we look at Guyana, we can see that the average Afro-Guyanese is being marginalized against. You go through town, you look at all the huge constructions that are going up in Georgetown, they are all Indian owned. If everything you see when it comes to large scale businesses is Indian owned, it paints a picture, okay? And a picture does not lie, okay? This government is continually marginalizing Afro-Guyanese. They're
All
not.
right. With that said, the evidence is glaring. Before we go to Mr. J.R. Crawford, let's play the tape again so that people can see this woman, the woman of the day who confronted two evil men who are destroying Guyana. And you are correct, Mr. Caesar. It's not one Guyana. It's one people, one nation, one destiny. But because of his racism, he wants to make it appear that it is one Guyana, when in fact it's not. Let's go back to the tape, please, Lemon.
Yeah, because I have it.
I want you to experience unity and love and development.
Yeah, but that has to come from the start.
That is what you're
That has to come from the start.
We are pushing that from the top of the.
All right, let's look back when she said it has to come from the top. I want you, the short guy that is there is actually the acting commissioner of police. I want you guys to see when she did say that it has to come from the top, what Hickens did.
Yeah, because I have it.
I want you to experience unity and love and development.
Yeah, but that has to come from the start.
Look at Hickens. That has to come from the top. And Hickens laughing. Hickens know what he's up to. Hickens right for skinny teeth. Mr. Crawford?
Mark, look, we all know from prior to 2020 August that Irfan is an arrogant person. He has not changed. The installation has made him much more comfortable being arrogant, failing to realize that being a president is not a position where you think that you own people. You're working for a nation. The first order of business is to respect the citizens. Yes, if they get disrespectful, then you can step it up. And he tries to talk with hand signals that are all reversed. He doesn't understand the use of hand signals. And one of these days, that hand signal is going to get him in trouble. He must learn as an installed person now. He needs to learn to listen and how to communicate with citizens. The presidency is of the people. It's not slavery time. And we as citizens must understand that we have the right to voice our concerns and we must be listened to. Once you're having a president that's turning his back.
He doesn't have that decency. He doesn't have the art. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's basically a thug. That is who he is, a thug. He believes that walking around and saying like he went into a particular area and he said to an elderly lady, "Auntie, who live here? Who you live here with?" The lady said, "Oh, me live with my grandpicnic. I walk though. You gonna walk. Why your house like this in this condition?" He turned to some other guy and said, "We will fix it." Is that what a president, a so-called president, is all about? To walk in people's village and say, "We're going to fix this." No, that's not the purpose of a president. If you're going to fix Auntie house, well, go and fix everybody's house in Guyana and done. Go and fix it. So he does these things to come across as though he knows what he's doing. He's a people's person. He's an arrogant fool. That is what he is. And he's no leader. There's no policy across. He gets up and he walks around. As long as the camera is there, he acts, but he's also very arrogant. There's no reason for him to be as arrogant as he is, thinking that he's a people's person. Let's show the evidence about this arrogant individual again.
Mr. Watts, he is armed himself shots. Shots, watch it, tear gas. Live rounds, also I can see that.
Just for Quendon! The man is a boxer, man. Why can't put in a boxer, man, to do that?
But since my cousin there is no you come on the East Coast.
You listen to me.
Right? No, you come to the East Coast.
You listen to me now.
You gotta listen to me too, man.
I am listening to you.
Right? Now, I see you on the East Coast. The day when they get a protest of them, the next day that's when you see one bigger heads come up for talk to my family. Right? And that's bad. If you didn't do a protest, you want to see nobody for justice. You see? I'm not holding back nothing. I'm not holding back nothing. I just need justice for my family.
I get visitors all of a sudden. All of a sudden, you all get visitors. This is Joker. Who is that Joker? That piece of plum. They know who the dealer with, you know.
They know who they're dealing with, you know. Calling David Hines a joker, a clown, and then turn to the youngster who just making Irfan a paku. I'm glad I meet a man like you know. I'm glad. Then Irfan now turn and say, they know who they're dealing with, you know. Irfan is a little punk, an arrogant fool. Somebody pray for that guy, please. Mr. Crawford and Mr. Caesar, we're looking for that. We're looking at the time here. No hope for Guyana under these vagabonds. Absolutely no hope, man. I'm pessimistic about the future of these people. Let us hope their political life is short-lived.
Mark, Guyana's problem is its people. They need to stop being racist among themselves. And when a situation or a government is not working for the general population, they need to come together and force the issue. The government is not that high and mighty. The reason why the government can behave in that way is because some of our citizens, they know the fact that they're being hurt, but because of racial inclination, they are not saying anything. They're not willing to cross the line and stand with others who have been oppressed. And we are not displaying any love and appreciation for our fellow Guyanese, regardless of race or religion or creed. And that is the tool that the politicians of today are using to keep us separated and suppressed. And we're complaining, some of us, but we're not getting the help from the others. Now, I want to touch back on something that bothered me. We keep hearing that Burnham was this racial people and he was oppressive and all these things. And I would like to say to the PPP backers, when Burnham was building Guyana from the ground up after the British left, who was his biggest ally and supporter? Not only morally, but financially, and with intellectuals, if it wasn't India. And why would he be a racist and he had leaned so hard on India? And, you know, they continue to spread this propaganda and keep this division on us, when in fact it's totally opposite. And you will hear the PPP people comparing 28 years to 23. You cannot compare the 28 years to the 23 years that was there, because Burnham had built so much in such a little time. Also, those very people who are complaining and calling all the racial epitones out, they were educated for free under Burnham. And they were given every single opportunity from nursery to university to be educated. So why would a racist person open the doors for all the races in Guyana to be educated?
Under the PNC, under Burnham, Pagwa became a holiday. Diwali became a holiday. um, Muslim holidays, all of these holidays under the PNC, under Burnham. We're watching the time because my driver is waiting for me outside. Sorry that I cut you, Mr. Crawford, but I'll give you an opportunity for your brief closing remarks. You are correct. A lot of these people, the road that we're on, the highway, Burnham Highway, the Torani, Burnham, under Burnham, and all these different things, all of the markets, repair, new markets, and so forth and so on. I'm not talking about Stabrook and Border. They've been around way before Burnham. But let us take a look at this here, the Demerara Harbor Bridge, that every day thousands of people, back in the days prior to 19 July, I believe it was July 2nd, 1978, when the Demerara Harbor Bridge came into existence. People used to have to cross the boat with their produces and all these things to go and sell. Long hours them a take before they go back home. Oh, Burnham ensured that there was a bridge across the Demerara River. Commissioned in July, should have been July 2nd, 1978, the Demerara Harbor Bridge is a major transportation link for Region 3 and 4 and other outlying regions sitting across the Demerara River, blah, 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 blah. So when they cross the Demerara River and them across Burnham, they must know that it is Burnham that actually did that for all of Guyana. All of Guyana. But look, the Berbice River Bridge, the most expensive bridge in the world. A vehicle, a F-150, to cross that bridge was almost $80 until one day that guy standing there decided to protest, shut down the bridge for about 3 hours, got about 4 charges, and that's okay. Forget about the 4 charges. It was for a good cause. One vehicle cost almost $6,000 to cross that bridge, not under Burnham, under Jack Deere. That is how Jack Deere punished his people, punished the people of Guyana. Under Jack Deere, a bridge that was not or should not have been at the mouth of the Berbice River, should have been inside, closer to Stanley Tongueside, but because of racism, they refused to put it there and took billions of your taxpayers' dollars from NIS, bankrupt NIS, to build this here. But the Demerara Bridge, you know how much it is to cross the Demerara Bridge? I ain't even sure it's more than 200 Guyana dollars. I ain't even sure. But 200. It is what it is, right? How much you said, Mr. Crawford?
200.
Good.
Of course.
Mr. Caesar, we got to give you your closing remarks. You guys will return sometime this week, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, Mark, just following up on the Demerara Harbor Bridge, being a financial accountant, that's one of the greatest investments, in my opinion, that was ever made in Guyana. But continuing on investments, the PPP continues to focus mainly on infrastructure. I think just the other day, Ashley Singh came out with a report indicating that, the oil money is not enough to fund the infrastructure projects that they're working on. And I find that to be quite a shame, because you're doing all this infrastructure work, but you're not doing anything when it comes to human capital. Now, human capital is supposed to be the most important asset, not infrastructure. And human capital, we're talking about the people here. Okay, the mere 8% that was given to the public servants just a few weeks ago there, that is nothing after taxes. I personally feel that the Guyanese people need some tax relief, and also a nice stimulus would have done them pretty well, on top of at least a raise over 10%, 11, 12%. Another thing, Mark, I continue to look at is the old age pension at $28,000 per month. Am I assuming here, or is the government assuming that every pensioner should be living with a family member or something? Because I can't see where $28,000 can take care of a pensioner for an entire month. I hate to jump and always use this whole oil money thing, but this installed government is in power where they have access to oil money.
To
At
steal, to
minimum,
thief,
old age
to
pension.
destroy the nation, to discriminate against people, and all manner of things you're doing. And then they're sending their little goons who have no moral standing, none whatsoever. Some of them are convicts, are coming out to say that they're talking to people in Washington, and these shut up, you little vagabonds. We really have to go, Mr. Caesar. Let's go over quickly to, but I'll give you another 30 seconds, sir. Go ahead. Sorry to.
Yeah, Mark, but the pensions is something that we really address. I think at minimum, old age pension should be about $50,000 per month, and in another 2 to 3 years, we should try to at least move that more towards $70,000 per month for these people to actually be able. I mean, people have worked their entire life. Now they're in their golden age. They should not have to suffer this way. To me,
They shouldn't have to suffer, but Jack Dew and Irfan making them suffer in the PPP because over $3+ billion they stole from NIS to give to their friends and cronies to build the Berbice River Bridge that is basically should be renamed Jack Dew Passage. It's a weak bridge. It cannot last as long as the Demerara Harbor Bridge, the same man that they love to curse. I honestly do feel that there's a reason why they love to cuss Burnham. I know why. Trust me. I know why these PPP men love to curse Burnham. There's not a single leader, so-called leader in the PPP, that can come close to Burnham in intellect, in looks, the way he dresses, his mannerism, the way he deals with people. Now, Burnham wasn't perfect, but I know why those PPP folks are jealous of Burnham. I know why. We all know why. It's Monday night, though. We all know why. Mr. Crawford, your closing remarks, sir.
Mark, I'm listening to you guys with the bridge. When you look back again, I'm going to make the comparison. When Burnham opened up the Demerara Bridge, look at the cost of it. And he looked at the cost of living at that time. When the Berbice River Bridge was opened up, look at the price tag that was put on there. And who were using the bridge much more than the PNC supporters, was the PPP supporters. Here you have a guy who claims to care for his party supporters, and he was juicing them to the tune of $2,000 for $2,200 for a regular car. When are we going to see that some of us are backing politicians that really don't care how we make it, as long as they get their hands in our pockets? I don't know how or what it's going to take for the voters to educate themselves and start to understand that doing something over and over doesn't mean you'll have different results. It is time for us to be honest with ourselves, to say, look, yes, we have been taught to back a particular party, but it's not doing anything for us. It's not doing anything for our communities, and we need to move away from it. Guyana could have gone way ahead of the Caribbean if we had unity as a people, if we were able to take ownership of our own constituency and remove politicians who have lied their way into leadership, who have disrespected the citizens, who have blatantly filled their pockets at the expense of the citizens' upliftment. We are not seeing politicians held accountable because, again, some people are saying it's better we punish on our own than a black man or an Indian man rule us. Those are the stupid things that are costing us so much more. And the most important part is our loss of respect in the Caribbean basin, much as the world. And we're doing our children and grandchildren a disservice by not demanding that our country is being governed in a better manner, and our resources are not being squandered or go into the 10% that's living high in the hog. I said it in 2019 and right through. Not until the people start to come together and demand goods and services will Guyana be a better place. We need to stop looking at people here texture or their structure and start to look at people as Guyanese. That's the only way we can rein in these politicians who are disrespecting the people, who are blatantly filling their pockets and leaving our citizens to go hungry. You know,
We will stop right there, Mr. Crawford. I just good points made. I want to thank you both so much for taking time out of your busy schedule on Monday evening. Mr. Caesar, the accountant, Mr. Crawford, the businessman, the accountant, the activist, the everything. Thank you all so much for your time.
Mr. Bishop, can I make a quick point?
We really have to go, though. That's why we
just a few words.
No, please, we really have to go. We're looking at the time, but go ahead.
I do consider running for leadership of the PNC.
I should have followed my mind and not allow you with a few words, because you're going to get people head bussing. You're going to get people at Bamba Maliwan left early and all kind of thing tonight.
Look,
all right, Mr. Crawford, we'll talk about
that. As a novice, I can't do any worse than what is happening now.
We'll talk about that some other time, some other day, but you're going to get them guys at Bamba Mali going crazy. Thank you so much, Mr. Crawford. Thank you, Mr. Caesar.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, all. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Mr. Caesar. Let's close off and let Irfan Ali and Jack Dio and them learn a little something here from this guy here. Let them learn to speak. Let them learn to be real leaders. Let's hear. Let's teach them. Let them learn something, right? God bless you all. Have a good night and see you guys tomorrow. So long.
Is now over. A hard and at times bitter campaign has come to an end. On the results, the People's National Congress, in the interests of peace and stability in Guyana, has agreed with the support of the United Force to form the government. One of the more serious tasks facing us at this moment is the attainment of independence at the earliest point of time. One of the disturbing features of the election, which we have noted, is the apparent cleavage existing in our society, brought about by colonialism and 7 years of mismanagement and misrule. It has come to our knowledge that despite the years of disaster suffered by the people of this country, a large section of the electorate was persuaded against its best interests to vote for the party formerly in power as a result of the dishonest and opportunist propaganda that, unless that party was returned to power, those people would suffer. The new government, headed by me, intends to show by its actions in the immediate future, and indeed throughout its term of office, that this is not true. The problem of racial cleavage, racial antagonism, and distrust, which the last government allowed to develop during its term of office, is still with us. But our government recognizes this as a challenge which it intends to accept and which it is determined to overcome. My government considers that it is a matter of the greatest importance and the utmost urgency that an atmosphere of relaxation be established immediately. The reduction of tension, which is already apparent and which will become more pronounced with every passing day, when it is realized that not only are we intent on being fair and just, but also that we have at our disposal the means to carry out our intention, is merely the first fruits of our attainment of office. Enemies of this country would like to see racial division and antagonism continue. They will not have that satisfaction. The government recognizes that its duty is to rule in the interests of all the people of this country. It will dispel the fears of the apprehensive and confound the hopes of those who seek the destruction of this country. To be specific, this government holds that all the people of this country are equally important, whether they belong to a large group or to a small group. To us, the Amerindians are important. To us, the Chinese are important. To us, the Portuguese are important. To us, the Europeans are important. To us, the mixed races are important. To us, the Africans are important. To us, the Indians are important. In short, all Guyanese are important and valued members of our community, and we cherish them and consider that as a government, it is our duty and privilege to guard, protect, and further the real interests of all. It would appear that the would-be destroyers of this country have sought to convince our Indian citizens that they have cause to fear because of the removal of the former government. We can assure our Indian citizens here and now that rather than cause for fear, they have much to hope for from the new government. This government is not bent on the confiscation of property. This government will not pursue policies likely to bring the races into collision. This government will maintain law and order. This government, while in office, will never declare its impotence to see that the lives and property and personal safety of any citizens are protected. We are fully aware that attempts will be made in the future, as in the past, to create disturbances. All of us know who are likely to create disturbances and who think that they have some benefit to be derived from chaos and violence. We have no benefit to derive from such things, and we will.
After the 21st of March, you say to them, walk behind them, chase them out, they're going to be illegal. Say to them, you're illegal. Free up the country, you're undemocratic. They're going to face a different situation right across the country.
Mr. Watts, he's armed himself shots. Shots, watch it, tear gas. Live rounds. Also, I can see that.
Just for Quentin! That man is a boxer, man. I like him putting the boxer, man, to do that. But since my cousin there, you know you come on the East Coast. You listen to me. Right? You know you come on the East Coast. You listen to me now. You gotta listen to me too, man. I am listening to you. Now, I see you on the East Coast. The day when they get a protest of them, the next day, that's when you see one bigger heads come up for talk to my family. Right? And that's bad. If you didn't do a protest, you want to see nobody for justice. You see? I'm not holding back nothing. I'm not holding back nothing. I just need justice for my family. I get visitors all of a sudden. All of a sudden, you all have visitors. This is Joker. Who is that Joker? That piece of plum. They know who to deal with, you know.
Hello, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington law firm located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Basement level vibes with another one, straight up blackness. Aye, who tell the truth? Mark Scott, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Scott, radio station is the fruit. Mark Scott, straight up from the root. Mark Scott, who tell the truth? Mark Scott, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Scott, radio station is the fruit. Mark Scott, straight up from the root. Mark Scott, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Scott stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny.